Welcome to the June 18th, 2025 electronic meeting of the Ann Arbor Transportation Commission. This meeting is being held electronically, but we intend to conduct it similarly to an in-person meeting. Public comments will be via telephone or Zoom only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call. I think this is right. This is from the May meeting, Christopher. If this phone number or the meeting ID is incorrect, let me know. But it's the phone number, I believe, is 206-337-9723 and enter meeting ID number 934-6385-2907. Is that the right meeting, Christopher?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Great, thanks. Or join via the Zoom link. This information is also available on the published agenda, in the public notices section of the city website, and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN. So Chris, if you could, please call roll.
Not a problem. Please say here and from where you're dialing when your name is called. Councilmember Ackman.
Here, Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Brogan is no longer with us. I apologize. Commissioner Conway. Okay. Commissioner Flewelling.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Altamaki.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Hook.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Keeler.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Lee.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Carpenter. I'm not seeing Commissioner Carpenter. Commissioner Zeker.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Hutchinson.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Redinger.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Acting Commander Mike Sherba.
Here from Tyrone Township.
Okay. Let the record show Commissioner Margolis and Commissioner Supka are absent. With that, we do have quorum.
Thank you. There are two items tonight on the consent agenda: approval of the agenda and approval of the minutes from May. Are there any other modifications to the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Moved by Doug.
I move to approve.
By Larry. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes or raise your hand.
Yes.
All those opposed to the motion, please say no or raise your hand. The consent agenda is approved. Next up is the public comment section. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes. Again, please call 206-337-9723 and enter meeting ID number 934-6385-2907 or connect via Zoom as described on the agenda. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number or your Zoom ID. In order to electronically raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak, please press *9 on your phone or select the raise hand button in Zoom. You'll hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. And when speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sound so that we may hear you. Chris, do we have any members of the public with their hands raised?
Yes, I am seeing a few raised hands. Just a quick heads up. You'll be given 3 minutes and I'll give you a 30-second head start when your time is almost up. Kathy Griswold, the floor is yours. The time will start upon you speaking.
Hello, this is Kathy Griswold calling from Ann Arbor, Michigan. On Monday night, I addressed City Council and raised a concern that the focus seems to be on projects, not people, and I believe that's contributing to the increasing crash rate. You probably see that we had 1 death and 1 serious injury in the month of May. I hope that the Transportation Commission does more than just review staff reports and has an intelligent discussion about what we might do to address this serious crash rate. Regarding Miller Avenue, I am continuing to advocate for the two-way cycle track to be removed. It goes against all engineering standards, and the longer the city waits, the more costly it will be to retrofit. Regarding the Sunset sidewalk, the sidewalk that was not put in, that the developer of the $1 million condos was told by city staff not to put in. I believe this is nothing more than dirty politics, and that sidewalk needs to be put in immediately. Regarding sight lines, the city doesn't seem to believe in them. In the DDA area, at least half of the properties are in violation of Chapter 40, Section 3.14. Down at the Blank Slate Creamery, the vegetation is growing higher than the children that are playing there. Regarding Chapter 40, I'm going to write up something and get it to staff because I have been working on this with staff for 30 years, and the answer is always, it is being worked on. That's not acceptable. We need to address that because it's contributing to our crash rate. And lastly, I've asked state officials to update the chart that shows how serious a crash is based on the speed of the vehicle. That chart is at least 15 years old. It is based on small sedans. It does not take into account trucks and SUVs that are on the road now. So we should be getting a new chart from the Michigan Department of Transportation. Thanks for your service. I hope you will become more assertive and aggressive regarding our crash rate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am seeing another person with their hand raised, the number ending in 955. The floor is yours.
Yes, hi, Kirk Westfall, 3505 Charter Place, Ward 2. I'm calling regarding the item about Packard, and I see in the CIP that the safety-related items in the CIP say to implement the Vision Zero transportation plan, including making this segment and all ages and abilities bike corridor, improve key cycling intersections, and it just says Tier 1 safety corridor without saying what to do with it. It also says potentially make the quick builds permanent and implement speed management for safety of non-motorized users where appropriate. So when I see implement Vision Zero, which has been the directive of City Council multiple times, to me this means we have to guarantee that the design speed for cars at all intersections and crosswalks can't be more than 20 or 25 miles per hour. And I'm guessing, I'm not an engineer, but that if there's green lights on this segment, that these intersections will not limit car speeds to a non-lethal speed. So I guess I'm kind of confused as to how the project drawings, have been made without this being apparently a consideration. I'm confused process-wise how we're doing resurfacing and infrastructure upgrades without ensuring that design speeds are Vision Zero compliant. So I have no specific suggestions. I mean, I guess I'm curious if vertical deflection, raised crosswalks or raised intersections have been contemplated for this stretch, or sort of as a default, and what other tools might be possible. But it doesn't seem that this, especially for a Tier 1 corridor, that this level of improvement is compatible with the directive of City Council. So I'd be curious to hear the discussion later. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. there anyone else? Their hand raised?
I see Adam Yashkevich. The floor is yours.
Hey, Adam Juskevich, 1430 Las Vegas Drive in the 4th Ward. Sorry for the late hand raise. But I was just noticing, you guys got an email, from Kathy Griswold, who I don't often agree with, but she's asking about a crosswalk on Stadium between Packard and South Industrial and when that's going to be put in. And I think that is absolutely necessary. There must be a crosswalk in that stretch. It's a long stretch with no crosswalk. There are actually curb at I forget which street because I don't look at the street signs when I'm walking, but it is, I think at Ferndale. Somewhere along there, I think it's about halfway down, where there are actually curb cuts, but there's no crosswalk painted. There's no crosswalk signs, anything like that. So hopefully we can get something there. I know there's piles of C-Click Fix tickets begging for a crosswalk there. It's near parks, near schools. Lots of destinations on both sides, lots of housing on both sides. Please put in a crosswalk there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Anyone else with their hands raised?
I don't see anyone. The two people with the raised hands have just spoken, so I think we're good to go.
Great, thank you. Thanks to all of the members of the public for speaking tonight. I also want to draw your attention to the, I believe, 5 emails that it should be in your meeting packet, so please take a look at those. A couple of them were mentioned by other commenters tonight. All right, next up would be business section. There's nothing that we're voting on tonight, so we'll move on to the information and discussion section. And first project up there is the Packard Street project update with the Wade Trim team. And I guess I'll let them introduce it, but so I think you guys have access and the ability to share, and I'll hand the floor over to you, to your team.
Thank you.
Is there anything we need to introduce Cynthia on this, or just, okay, thanks.
Thank you. So Andy will be bringing up the slide presentation here.
Yeah, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great.
I'm Chris Wall, the city assigned project manager. Andy Casper is our design manager. We're also joined by a slate of other Wade Trim team members here. Vaughn Martin, who's a project manager. Carmel Tremblay, who's our quality control manager on the project, and then Mark McCullough, who's going to be speaking for the next project that we'll be presenting on. So as we receive some questions, and the team will help facilitate some of the Q&A on the project. But thank you for allowing us to present and provide an update on the project. I'll start walking through the slide deck here. This first title slide reads the Packard Street Improvement Project 6/18/2025 Transportation Commission meeting. Has a picture of Packard Street looking at a crosswalk looking down the road. The next slide. The second slide reads the project area, Packard Street from South Main Street to State Street, which is approximately 0.6 miles. It's a main thoroughfare with multi-unit student housing, businesses, bike lanes, and a Tier 1 safety corridor. There is the slide shows a picture of a map showing the street limits of Packard Street from South Main Street to State Street highlighted in blue. identified as a project location, and it's surrounded by the businesses, a lot of housing along that corridor. The next slide. This third slide reads the citywide goals and has two kind of areas to discuss. The one on the left side shows an image of the Ann Arbor moving together towards Vision Zero and reads, Vision Zero by 2025, no one dies or is seriously injured in crashes on Ann Arbor streets, and has an image pointing down at two arrows identifying in text some of the items that are being implemented on the project, which include and read improved bike lanes, special emphasis crosswalks. And the second item that is pointed out is potential bump outs for reduced width, and that implies reduced width for crossing exposure to vehicles for pedestrians. And Andy will go into those a little bit more. The second image to the right is of the A20 image and has text underneath it that states carbon neutrality. By 2030, our transportation system contributes zero emissions towards climate change, and has two arrows, one arrow pointing down to green modes, and the second one arrow pointing down to reduced emissions, which are both integrated in the project by promoting the non-motorized facilities in the project. And it looks like Andy may have gotten kicked off. Did we lose Andy, Chris?
It appears so.
Hey, all. I'm back. I don't know what just happened. I dropped off. I'm sorry about that.
Could you go ahead and pick up where we left off on slide 3, please?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
There
we go.
Okay.
So I just completed that slide, so Andy, you can go to slide 4. This reads comprehensive transportation plan. It shows two images. The first image is a table identifying some of the components being addressed or integrated into the Packard project, which includes, and it reads across from left to right, high crash locations, addresses dangerous behaviors. It is a quick build location, as a crosswalk safety that are being addressed. These are bike routes that are being integrated. There's intersections of biking that are being addressed. ADA accessibility is also being integrated into it, as well as some signal technology for crossings, pedestrian crossings that we'll talk about. As mentioned, Packard Street is a tier 1 corridor, which is a main focus on safety. So these elements are taken from the comprehensive transportation plan. The fifth slide here is a list of bullet points discussing elements that are integrated into the project, and reads the project overview. First bullet point, install new 12-inch water main. Second bullet point, pavement resurfacing outside of the water main. Next bullet point is sidewalk ramp improvements for American Disability Act compliance. Next bullet point, install permanent bike lane improvements. The next bullet point is signing and pavement marking improvements. Next bullet point is signal upgrades at 4th and 5th intersection, including accessible pedestrian signals. The next bullet is install accessible pedestrian signal at South Main. And then the final bullet point are some bump outs, which are going to look like concrete flush aprons. And at this point, Andy will walk through the project corridor and discuss some of those enhancements. So I'll hand it over to Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. All right. So this is slide 6. It reads Phase 1, South Main Street to South Division Street, and in parentheses, full width from South Main to 5th shown. The slide shows an aerial view of Packard Street from the top down. You can see South Main on the left, and then reading it to the right, you can see the intersection of 4th and then 5th. There are some call outs that indicate the streets, the intersecting streets, and also a call out that indicates APS, which is the accessible pedestrian signal that Chris referred to on the previous slide. There's one at 4th that says upgrade signals with APS, and one at 5th that also reads upgrade signals with APS. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here. We are permanently implementing the quick build pavement markings. The city had some success with that, or significant success with it, so we're going to make it permanent. This will include city posts within the bike lane buffers. We are improving or adding a green bike box here at the South Main intersection or approach. This is a no turn on red approach, and this bike box will help protect bicyclists wishing to make turning maneuvers at South Main. Other notable features are the bump outs at 4th and the bump outs at 5th. All of these will be the flush apron style bump outs like those that you see at South Main and William, with the exception of the southwest quadrant at 5th. That will be more of the traditional style with a full raised curb and will be like a true bump out. The next slide, slide 7. So this slide reads Phase 1, South Main Street to South Division Street, and in parentheses it says full width from 5th to Division shown. It also shows a graphic that represents the street and the pavement markings. It continues on the left from where we left off on the previous slide and goes right to the intersection of Division. The only noteworthy feature here is that we will be improving the sidewalk ramp on the northeast side of Division. It is currently deteriorated, it's cracked. We're going to basically remove and replace it, put it right back where it is. The next slide. This slide reads Phase 2, South Division Street to State Street. In parentheses, it says Division across shown. And this slide also has a top-down graphic that shows the street and the pavement markings. It continues where we left off on the previous slide on the left, and it goes to the right. Starting from the left, we have the intersection of Madison and Division, and then Thompson, and then Cross. There are labels that show that, that indicate those are the intersecting streets. Once again, this just shows, the quick build being installed permanently. There are no changes to the quick build along this section. Slide 9, it reads Phase 2, South Division Street to State Street. This is also, it says in parentheses, cross the state shown. This has a top-down graphic that shows the pavement markings and an aerial view of the street. It has Hill Street labeled, Mary Street labeled, and State Street labeled. One thing that's noteworthy here is the intersection of Hill is gapped for pavement removal and replacement. The reason for this is because that's new pavement, and we believe that we can conduct these operations, improving the pavements along Packard without disrupting the pavement within the Hill Street intersection. One important thing I should mention is there's a water main that's also going in this whole way. And at Hill Street, when we designed Hill Street and installed it, we left water main stubs, or I shouldn't say stubs. We extended the new water main far enough along Packard that we can tie into those connections, so we can stay away from that new pavement, right? I'd just like to point out what's going on here at State. There's some special or extended pavement removal and replacement area shown. This is to accommodate the water main connections at that intersection. The next slide. So slide 10. Slide 10 reads next steps, and it has a few bullets. It says design fall 2025, bid letting winter 2025, construction season 2026, final completion spring 2027. And it also reads Ann Arbor public engagement meeting was held on 6/12/2025, summarizing meeting and online feedback. So I'd just like to touch on each of these points. So we're well, the design is well underway. We're quickly approaching the 80% mark. We plan to have this design wrapped up sometime in the fall, between October and November. The bid letting will then take place sometime between November and January. And then we expect, construction of 2026 to start as early as April. Final completion will just consist of, punch list items, touch-ups, final landscape restoration, and so on. Slide 11 reads, stay up to date. It shows a link to the website. It says, regularly check in at the project website to stay up to date. And it shows a snip of the website just for a graphical feature. So basically what I'm trying to say with this slide is we do have a project website through the a2gov.org website. We plan to use this website for public engagement, communicating critical milestones to the residents and also you folks and anyone else interested. Slide 12 reads questions, and it shows a graphic consisting of a question box and a few question mark bubbles around it. And at this point, my presentation is concluded, and I'd like to open the floor to any questions that the Transportation Commission may have regarding this project.
Questions, Dharma?
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. Maybe because I'm, not an engineer, I'm having a little bit of a difficult time telling from your drawings and from the walkthrough what specifically is being done to address that this is a tier 1 corridor and the all ages, all abilities network. So I was wondering if you could kind of maybe focus a bit more, call out what are the safety improvements, kind of why are they being, like when you talk about the apron, like I don't really know what that means. So yeah, I'm hoping that you can touch on some of those things.
Yeah, no problem. So let me back up. So first and foremost, we have the protected bike lanes, right? We have the buffered bike lanes that are going to protect bicyclists. The second feature that we have is we're upgrading the signals, and we're upgrading them to include the accessible pedestrian signals. Those signals are the audible signals that you may hear around town. These are to help visually impaired folks get around, and basically they use them as wayfinding and also direction to cross the street. It's kind of hard to tell from this graphic, and I do apologize. This is a simple wireframe graphic that we whipped together for the sake of this presentation and others. The plans, they just aren't far enough along that we can comfortably show or present directly from them. But basically what you're looking at here is these are radial concrete aprons that extend the radius. And basically the purpose is to create a visual deterrent for vehicle traffic. basically what this does is it gives the driver the impression that the road is narrower than it actually is, and it keeps them away from the bike lanes, away from the bike lane buffers, and helps protect the bicyclists as well as any pedestrians that may be crossing at these intersections. And what it does to protect the pedestrians is, once again, it's that visual deterrent. It basically just keeps the drivers on the inside of the road, right? So
it's paint only, though. Am I right?
No, it's concrete. It's, if you want a good example of it, you can find them at South Main and William. We put some in a couple years over there, a couple years ago over there.
So it's not only visually narrowing it is actually physically narrow, like making the curve broader.
No, it isn't. So it is a visual deterrent. It's flush with the pavement, and one of them does project out of the pavement and actually shortens the crossing distance, but that is only one. We found that in terms of design, only one could fit, and we decided to implement it where we could. But no, it is not a physical deterrent.
And what elements would you say are slowing? And I don't know if staff wants to chime in with like what's been going on that designated this a tier 1 corridor, because I don't recall offhand, but I'm guessing that it has to do with speeds and stopping. So what design changes are being made to deal with speeds?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I'm not sure if someone from the city or the Wade Trim team can help me out with that. We have not been provided any direction regarding changes to the speed limits.
So I got a note from Chris Wall that he has lost connection. So I will go ahead and jump in there, Andy.
Thank you.
We are narrowing the corridor. We're doing lane narrowing. There will be vertical elements on the buffered bike lane. So that will be there. I do want to emphasize these concrete aprons because they really do help, because it is a different paving material, right? It's concrete versus the HMA. So it does help to guide paths for motorists so that drivers are sticking to a better line as they're taking their turns, and that really does help. We're also Chris Wall and I have been discussing the ability to add some centerline hardening in at some of these intersections, because we are seeing with some of our more recent cycling infrastructure improvements that we're seeing a lot of corner cutting going on. So those are the types of things that we are really focusing on.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Yeah, my apologies. I just dropped during the important Q&A, but I did come on. Yeah, I did come in and hear Cynthia's answer. So yes, appreciate that, Cynthia.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification. I heard that we're going to have a buffered bike lane similar to what currently exists here, but then I also heard Cynthia say something about vertical elements. So I wanted a clarification. What exactly are we talking about vertical elements? Is that like the flex posts?
Yes.
And is it the full length of these buffered bike lanes? Is it only for a portion of it?
Yeah, so it's the full length. These are the city posts that you're used to seeing around town.
Yeah.
And it will be the full length. We will gap them accordingly at driveways, crosswalks, and intersections.
Was there ever any consideration of doing something similar to what's going on with Miller Avenue here? Because with this being a tier 1 safety corridor, we did get a presentation back in March about, major streets that have certain design elements should be redesigned when we're doing major projects like this. with a separated bike network. And this seems like less than that. I appreciate that there's vertical elements, but it's not quite a separated bike facility like what we've been doing with our major streets so far.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you point that out. So that is a design consideration that we looked at, right? We looked at installing excuse me, I'm not entirely familiar with what's going on over on Miller, but I believe you're talking about maybe some concrete islands that separate the bike lane from the vehicle lanes. Is that right?
Yeah, it does that. Miller has a two-way. It's two ways on one side of the street, a cycle track. But yeah, basically like concrete that separates the traffic from the lane.
Yeah, so we did consider that, and we developed a like a design mock-up to kind of look at that and the implications. Basically, what we found is there's just too many driveways, right? It just doesn't make sense to install concrete buffers or concrete islands along this buffer because there'd just be too many gaps to accommodate turning movements in and out of those driveways.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Peter?
So a couple of things. The flush apron just doesn't seem like much of a deterrent to me, to people taking those corners too close. Is it in conjunction with a post or anything like that that would really act as a deterrent, or a bollard?
So we will fit in city posts where we can, but one of the challenges that we face with this particular corridor is the way are the angles at which the streets intersect, right? It kind of makes these radiuses strange, or they're not very well suited for physical deterrence like bump outs, like raised bump outs and posts and bollards. But if I will reference the South Main and William intersection again, if you take a look at that north side, you'll see that there are these flush apron bump outs, and they do have some city posts. Like I want to say there might be one near the middle of the radius. And if we can find that those fit and we can still permit turning movements for large vehicles, particularly large emergency vehicles like your fire truck aerial, your aerial fire truck, we will install them, right? So we'll get them in where we can fit them in. And you know, I completely understand and appreciate how it is that you can look at these and say, oh, that doesn't seem like much of a deterrent, but they are. It's even utilizing different colored pavement markings can serve as a visual deterrent to help reduce speeds and make corridors safer. So I believe the city has had a lot of success with what we installed at South Main and William, and that is why we were directed to consider installing these at these intersections as well.
Okay, you mentioned the unusual angle that we have here. And I've got a question about a couple of design elements here based on that angle. One of them is what is the configuration of the traffic signals going to be? Right now, these intersections have signals that show in all four directions that are suspended on a cable above the intersection. What are we going to have tomorrow?
So when the project is completed, you will have mast arm signals at these intersections, much like what you have at the intersection of South Main.
Okay, so
and one thing I should emphasize, and I apologize I didn't say this. So Wade Trim is designing the elements for the underground, and that's what we're going to include in the contract document. So this will be like the cabling and conduit, and handholds, and then the city will be installing the signals in masts and mast arms.
Okay. I would like to observe that at Hill and Packard, where we have this same angle, we have the mast arm style signals. And when you are headed on outbound Packard at the corner of Hill and Packard, and you're waiting to make a left turn, you can see all of the signals at one time. You can see a walk signal, a do not walk signal, a green traffic signal, a red traffic signal. You can see them all at once in your field of view. And that's not true at these intersections here, where we have a different style of traffic signal that's suspended above the intersection. And if there's a way to cut down on this, and all this noise from different signal devices that we have, and still using mast arms, then I'm okay with it. But the situation that we have at Hill right now is not okay and is visually very confusing. We had a crash there in September with a left-turning scooter rider. And if you go and look at the intersection from his perspective, like right before that crash happened, he was seeing one of everything. Now, whether or not that contributed to the crash, I don't know. Whether or not that contributed to his decision to turn left at the wrong time, I don't know. But I am confident in saying that it would be better if we presented users of that intersection with less confusion and less inputs when they're making turns. The other thing I'd like to say about this unusual angle is that at the corner of Division and Packard, we have existing cycling infrastructure there that's on Division. When you're making the left turn from outbound Packard to northbound Division, the opening to the bicycle lanes there is very large, and it's big enough for a car. And because of the unusual turn radius, the unusual turn angle that you have to progress through, it's very reasonable to think that that's where a car should go. And I observed someone doing that firsthand recently. So I'd like to make sure that we pay attention to ways to filter out car traffic, and whether that's a vertical post or what. I think that we can do a better job of making it obvious to car drivers that that's not where they should go, right? Let's make it as easy as possible for them to stay in the car lanes. The other last thing I would like to say about the city posts, we do have a couple different kinds of posts around the city, and some of them appear to be better at withstanding interactions with cars than others. So I don't know exactly what a city post is, but we've got a lot of these posts that are taking a beating, and if we can find some that will withstand more of that, that would be preferable from my standpoint. So thank you.
You had said that you've observed some that withstand the beatings better than others?
No, I've observed that they are all receiving beatings from cars.
Okay.
I don't know which ones are better than others, but if we can find something that holds up better, then I think that would be better for everyone involved.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Matt?
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Can you tell me how wide the new traffic lanes will be?
I'm sorry, can I tell you what?
How wide will the new traffic lanes be?
So we're basically putting them back exactly as they are now. I believe they are 11 feet wide, but let me check really quick. I do have the plans open so I can see. Yeah, they are 11 feet wide. Pretty much the whole way. Down near State. Let me just see here. Down near State, because of the parking along the northeast side of the road there, the lanes are a little narrower and they go down to 10 feet as you approach state.
Okay. I appreciate the attention to that. Speaking from the bus side of things, when two large vehicles pass each other oncoming, we need to remember their mirrors are going to be heading directly at each other, hanging over the double yellow line in the middle of the street. If they clip each other, that's $10,000 to replace that and whatever else the other guy wants. So 11 feet sounds great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
A note regarding the post discussion at William and Main. I was just pulling it up on Google Street View, and you're right, there is one flexible post. But I think that's the type of post to keep cars or try to keep cars from going into the wider cycle track, the 2-lane cycle track. But I think it probably also serves a very good purpose to keep cars to make sure they go around the apron, the cement apron that you were talking about. So yes, I do see the cement apron at William and Main, but there is a post there as well. So like I think Eric was asking, if if it's possible to pair the apron with a post, I think that would be definitely more effective. I was wondering, the one location, I think at 4th, where you have a raised bump out, how will the bike lane navigate that?
Yeah, so it's hard to see in this drawing, but the bump out extends to the south along 5th here, and while it's within the intersection of Packard, our intent is to have it flush with the pavement. But basically, this is going to help narrow the travel lanes along 5th. All right, part of the project is we were asked to improve or implement speed deterrence in the intersecting streets, in addition to Packard as well. And I apologize, I did not emphasize that in my presentation.
So the bike lane coming south along 5th, would that go around this new bump out then, or?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Yeah, Pete.
I was wondering about the bike lane and the bump outs. So, I mean, does that mean that where we have the bump out, that we have less of a buffer between the bicycle and the car traffic?
No. So the bump out will be flush with the pavement. It won't change the width of the bike lane or the buffer at all.
Okay, but it's not going to be flush on 5th, I thought you said. So is 5th going to have less of a buffer for bike traffic?
No, it will not. No.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Dharma?
One thing that I know about this stretch, and this is close to my work, I actually work at the intersection of Madison, Packard, and Division. That's a complicated intersection, as is the one near State. There's several roads that are coming together.
Oh, yeah.
As you said, there's a lot of student housing. There's even more housing being put in down by State. Was there any thought given, and I also know that there's, quite frankly, some frustration with car drivers because certain times of day you come to the intersection, and because we don't have multiple lanes that you can have, like, one car can make a turn. So was any thought given to roundabouts and/or raised crosswalks, things that further both slow people down at these intersections and create perhaps a better flow for everybody?
So not for this project, not on the Wade Trim end. Maybe city folks can speak to that more intelligently than I can. I don't know everything that went into the planning that led up to the direction that Wade Trim was provided.
I guess I can try to jump in there. Roundabouts were never contemplated for any of these intersections. I think a lot of them there wouldn't be adequate space for that. In terms of raised crosswalks, I mean that's really a design element, that we wouldn't identify in the planning stage of a project. A roundabout is a major cost addition to a project, and if we had a place where we thought there was a desirable place for that, we would include it in the planning process. But raised crosswalks is something that would be more come up during the design discussion.
So is that still a possibility, perhaps? I guess, and this is just like, and maybe staff can speak more to this. Like, I guess I'm having a little, I would appreciate a reminder on how this got labeled a tier one, like what kinds of things that we're seeing here and how this design addresses it. I remember you guys did a very like clear job, and granted that was like further along in the design process by the time I looked at it, but the Hill and State Improvements Project did a very good job at articulating the types of crashes that were there and like the treatments. And so if someone could connect the dots, I would just appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'd like to lean on city folks for that. I feel like I came into this project a little further along when the project when the city had already made decisions regarding these elements, right? So if someone could help me out with that, please.
Well, we can circle back with city staff and review the data that's available. I know there's some crash history reports, as well as a quick build analysis that was done, and there were some studies associated with that informed kind of where this design was headed. But we can circle back with the city staff and talk to them about some of those determinations, as well as possibility for the other improvements on the crosswalk stuff. But we can circle back on that.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I have a question about how a couple of the left turn movements are being handled, especially at Hill, and I think maybe a couple of streets prior to that. Right now, it seems like without any vertical posts or anything, there's people will sometimes go around a car that's attempting to turn left. Sometimes they won't. I think there might be some dashed lines. It seems like there's confusion with this, and with the new posts. Will cars not be able to go around and enter the bike lanes, or what's kind of the intent, I guess, for the cars that are turning left and people that are behind them that might be impatient, or are there provisions for that? Just what are the thoughts around that?
Yeah, so the intent is we are including the buffered bike lanes, right, with the city posts, and the city posts should prevent anyone from going around traffic, right? If I understand the question, you're saying if someone is in the queue here making a left turn on a hill this way.
I was thinking more the outbound direction, because especially right around there. Around Packard turning left to go east onto Hill.
Okay, gotcha. From here this way.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
And the question is, folks wanting to make a right turn maneuver here?
No, just to go straight. Like lots of times you'll see a backup behind the car that's waiting to turn left. Coming traffic, and people can get frustrated. You see people darting around, other people waiting, honking. There's this kind of mass confusion always, it seems like.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. So I can definitely see what you're saying. And yes, our intent is to utilize the buffered bike lanes in the city posts to prevent traffic from making those maneuvers.
Okay, I guess once the car is if the left turning car is in the middle of the intersection, there's nothing to stop the cars behind them from going around where it's like the hashed, green part of the
Yeah, through
yeah,
here.
right in there. So yeah, there could still be conflicts in that area, but
Yeah, unfortunately, that's within the travel lanes of Hill, and there's really nothing we can do to, in terms of installing deterrents to prevent people from making those maneuvers.
sure. Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, I want to thank the team for coming out and talking to us tonight about this project. Look forward to how it progresses. Probably hear more about this as the months go on.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure presenting to you all.
All right, thank you. Next up is the North University Avenue project update, also from the Wade Trim team. So I'll let you all take it away again.
Oh, thank you again. So the same team will basically be presenting, but we'll have Mark McCullough here. Mark, are you going to share?
I am trying. Zoom always trips me up.
I could try to do. I could share. You want me to do that?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Is that working?
Yes, I can see that. Thank you, Chris.
Is there anything blocking the image? Like this, the buttons and stuff like that, or is it okay?
Looks clean to me.
Okay. So again, name is Chris Wall with Wade Trim. I'm the city assigned project manager. I'm joined with Mark McCullough, who's a project manager. Again, I have two other colleagues from Wade Trim here to help answer questions. Vaughn Martin and Carmel Tremblay. The first slide here reads North University Avenue and Thayer Street Improvements Project, 06-18-2025 Transportation Commission meeting. And there's an image on the right side that shows a crosswalk with people crossing the road of North University as a bicycle approaches in the bike lane. I get to advance my own slides this time. So the second slide reads mobility goals and city values. There's two images on the left side. First image is 820, equity, sustainable, and transformative image. The second image is Ann Arbor moving together towards Vision Zero image. And then there's a bubble with text on the right side with 4 check marks. And each check marks has text associated with it. And the first one is reads safety. No one dies or is seriously injured in crashes on Ann Arbor streets. The second check is accessibility for all, create an inclusive environment for people with disabilities. Third check is mobility, move people and goods efficiently and provide sustainable modes of transportation. And then the fourth check is carbon neutrality. The city transportation system contributes 0 emissions. So as we go through this presentation, we'll talk about how some of those goals are met by some of the elements that are integrated in the project. The third slide here reads design considerations for all roadway users. That's obviously very important on this project. And there is a compilation of 4 different images. The one image is a cyclist biking along parked cars on State Street. Another picture is someone in a wheelchair accessing a transit bus. There's an image of people walking along the sidewalk, and then another image of a person walking across a crosswalk. The fourth slide reads comprehensive transportation plan. And as the prior presentation has 2 images on it, the right image shows the Ann Arbor moving together towards Vision Zero. It's a City of Ann Arbor Comprehensive Transportation Plan image of the report. And then the main image is a table basically for North University and Thayer improvements, and it has different check marks associated with components that this project is trying to address. And that's high crash locations, dangerous behaviors, quick build components, crosswalk safety, bike routes, intersections of biking, ADA accessibility. And then there's text below that box that reads North University Tier 2 corridor, focus on safety and address multimodal needs, which is the basic definition of what a Tier 2 corridor encompasses. Mark, was I going to go through this slide or hand this off to you?
Nope, that's where I take over, Chris. So
okay.
I did lose connection once. So if I do disappear again, I will come back shortly. So no one panic in case I all of a sudden I'm not there anymore. So good evening, and it's a pleasure to speak again to the commission. So the slide that we're looking at here, slide 5, it reads project area. North University measures 0.2 mile, and Thayer Street, which measures 0.12 mile. It is North University is a transit corridor, and it is bound by the University of Michigan campus. It further reads the project scope includes a replacement of water main that's aged out here. We're going to be doing stormwater management, resurface pavement, provide protected bike lanes on North University. We are leaning towards providing an elevated crosswalk at the Ingalls Mall and provide transit improvements along North University. And then to the right is an image of the downtown area with lines, yellow lines dashed for the project limits. So North University limits are from State Street to Fletcher, and the Thayer project, which is included in this, is from North University going north to East Washington. A lot on that slide. So originally this project was a three-part project included with the State Street corridor, which is currently under construction between East William and South University. And due to timing issues, the decision was made to break it into two different projects. So the focus on this one is to look at North University and Thayer. This project is in conceptual stage. We are not anywhere near as advanced in the layout as we are with Packard Road. So I don't want to say we're starting from the beginning, but we're definitely much closer to the ground level for this project. Next slide, Chris. Thank you. The slide number 6 reads preliminary concept layout, and the header is beneath North University from State Street to Thayer. And there is a legend here with multiple colors: orange for on-street parking, gray, white for a travel lane, maroon, red for a transit lane, blue, green for a bike lane, a charcoal color for street buffer and delineation, a light blue or a cyan color for a sidewalk buffer signage area, royal blue for a bus stop and loading and unloading. I don't know what kind of blue I would call this one, but it's in between the two for Hill Auditorium bus parking. The dark purple is raised crosswalk. The magenta color, pink, is new sidewalk and streetscape. And then the thin lines of the yellow is a device that we utilize first on State Street called a trapezoidal delineator. And I can get into that momentarily. And then a purple line, which represents proposed curb and gutter. So I've broken these slides out into 3 segments for North University so it could be taken in bite sizes. So this one focuses again on State Street to Thayer. So right now there is on-street parking on the orange provided along the north side of the corridor. And there is protected bike lanes both on the north and south side between State and Thayer. That is above and beyond what is provided for Tier 2. But as with Tier 2, as Chris explained, we look at all opportunities for safety and for multimodal purposes. And when it fits and it's feasible, we provide it. So in this case, we are proposing to keep those protected bike lanes, but in a different arrangement. And the reason for that is similar to State Street. There was a exclusive northbound transit lane provided between South University and William Street. And the University of Michigan and the AATA, the ride, is interested because both of them heavily rely on this eastbound route to get to the transportation center, which is North University converts name changes into Gettys Road as you pass Fletcher. So they have a major transit center there. So they are of the opinion that it is a wise investment for them to participate. Potentially, they still have to come together with this and get approvals, but provide financial participation for this red lane that you see here that would be exclusive just for transit needs. So that's the multimodal component. The intersection itself of State and North University, as you're likely aware, is a multi-way stop. So that is a good feature as far as speed control. So where do we put the bike lanes? So they're protected today. The on-street parking is still needed and desired by not the DDA per se, although they manage it, but more so for the district itself, the guild, the State Street district. So we didn't want them to, we don't want them to feel like they're losing out and losing something as part of this project. So we're utilizing by relocating the curb along the north side to put the bike lane in behind the back of curb with a protected buffer. And then that yellow strip that you talk about, it is a tactile device, which helps to delineate between the bikes and the sidewalk for sighted pedestrians, so that they know that there's something there that they need to be aware of and not potentially cross over and be in conflict with the bike. Next slide, Chris. Okay, thank you. Slide 7 reads preliminary concept layout, and underneath North University from Thayer to Ingalls Mall. I won't go through the legend again, but I'll point out some key features here. So again, we're starting at the intersection from left to right at Thayer. So there's a boulevard that's presented. Unlike the first segment, this segment has a boulevard from Thayer to Fletcher. And in order to continue that transit lane that you see in red, and still provide some type of a protected feature for the cyclists, we are choosing to, at this point, the concept is leaning towards narrowing that boulevard so that we can put all these features in to balance, enhance safety, and still balance mobility for the users, the transit, the walkers, the bikers. On the eastbound side, there is currently a bus stop there today. This will not be a pull-off bus stop, but will be a platform bus stop for both the ride and the University of Michigan prior to it then transitioning to the crosswalk that exists today at the Ingalls Mall. That is the area in purple that we are contemplating making it a raised crosswalk to further enhance safety by controlling speeds. And then as we go westbound, that lighter blue color, that was a request by the University of Michigan because there are many both commercial charter buses and school bus trips for drop-offs and pickups. And currently right now, those buses are pretty much in the bike lane. So we're looking to provide space for both and utilize it in a manner where buses can still park, but the bike lane is still provided its own feature with a buffer between the travel lane and itself. Next slide.
At Hill Auditorium.
At Hill Auditorium. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Next slide, please. All right. Slide 8 reads preliminary concept layout. Tagline, North University, Ingalls Mall to Fletcher. So Fletcher is the stopping point for this proposed project. So it's from looking from left to right. It is at the Ingalls Mall that we touched upon. So because ideally it would be nice under all circumstances to be able to extend that bus lane all the way to the transit center that exists east of the Fletcher Road intersection, but the budgets just don't allow it, and you have to have a stopping point. So Wade Trim did some analysis as to what is the best alternative of merging the two together. And the consensus that we came up with was that it made sense to for the bus to yield to the travel lane as it is after people have exited the intersection, because it would be the least amount of conflict points that one would experience at that location. Whereas if it were beforehand, it could be problematic for pedestrians at the crosswalk there. So this would continue with the concept of narrowing the median as needed to provide these features, and also then again have the bike lane in the roadway protected with the buffer space. Next slide, Chris. Thank you. So this slide reads preliminary concept layout, Thayer Street from North University to East Washington Street. So the concept's a little bit different here. This one's a little bit more in its infancy compared to what we've analyzed at North University. So there are two different images of limits. So the top image is working from North University to a point from the parking structure, if you're familiar with that area, the exit. And because I couldn't fit it all in the same window and have it be able to read it, it continues in the bottom window from that same point to Washington Street. And there are 3 boxes within that show colors where you have the charcoal light gray, which is your travel lanes. You have purple on the bottom, which is where there's existing commercial parking that was there for the DDA. And then you have this area that is supposed to be, I couldn't get the two to match between the box and this, but it's supposed to be the outer lanes of the roadway along the curb face to represent existing parking and potential parking. So why potential parking? A number of spots were lost on State Street for on-street parking. And with that, there were ADA compliant handicap spots that were lost. And the university is desiring at a request to find ways to mitigate those losses. And one of the potential areas where some of those losses could be established and mitigated would be along the east side of Thayer Street from North University to Washington Street. So currently there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots plus an extra handicap spot along the west side of the corridor. And when you look at the potential for east sides for driveways and fire code, there is the potential for up to 12 to 13 spots, with a handful of those potentially going back to the handicap parking. Because this is a tier 2 corridor and there's a lot going on in this, this does meet the definition of shared use because of the volumes of the roadway, where the cyclist would share the lane with the cars. Next slide, please. So what are our next steps? That's what slide 10 reads. So we're looking at finalizing the conceptual details. It further reads, finalize road, water main, and stormwater bid documents. Continue stakeholder and public engagement. So that would be specifically with transit, so the University of Michigan, the RIDE, and then also the DDA and State Street District and their membership. Right now, it is hopeful that this project would start after the commencement at University of Michigan in the spring of 2026. And it would be staged a little bit differently from what State Street is, but it would likely be North University would be done prior to the art fair, and then continue to construction after the art fair for be completed prior to school resuming at the university for the fall semester. And then in the fall, focus on Thayer. So we're just kicking the can on that right now. That's not set in stone, but those are some of the ideas that we have in mind. So with that concludes my presentation. I want to kick it back to Chris for him, Wall, to ask. Oh yes, and slide 11 is reads questions with a bunch of hands and question marks. So I'm going to kick it back to Chris Wall to add anything he would like before we open it up to our the commissioners for Q&A.
I don't have anything to add. Carmel, Vaughn.
Nothing at this time. Nope.
Okay.
Nothing at this time as well.
Defer to the chair.
Questions or comments from the commission? Pete?
Okay, first about the raised crosswalk, I am way in favor of that. In January, we had a student who was seriously injured in a crash at this crosswalk, and since then we've improved the signage, but we need something there to make it very obvious to drivers that there's going to be a lot of pedestrian traffic there and something to help slow them down. My next observation is about the transit lane. The way that I would like you to deal with the transit lane on the east side of Fletcher would be to close North University to vehicle traffic except buses. The only thing that's on that stretch of North U around the corner is the transit center. Like there isn't a really good reason to drive a personal vehicle on that portion of North University. And so I think we should filter cars out and make them turn onto Fletcher at this intersection. And then buses could go on without being hindered by other vehicles that don't need to go there. Last thing I'd like to offer up is a question about what are we expecting the speed to be here, and what are we doing to design for that speed? And I guess this question really also applies to the other project on Packard. We talked a little bit about design speed, and I think I might have been asking more about target speed. So if we could have some clarification on what's the difference between design speed and target speed, and what are we targeting for this area, and what are we doing to make sure that we're achieving those targets and getting the correct vehicle speeds that will support our Vision Zero goals. And if there is a crash, we don't get a serious injury or a fatality. So.
Sure. Yeah, I could start there. So as far as the transit only suggestion, the good news is there are other minds that are thinking just like you, sir. And those are also in the planning at the University of Michigan. We did broach that subject with them, and they said at this time, as much as they like the idea, I'll use an analogy, the fruit is not ripe yet for that. And the reason is because there is a concept being kicked around still for alternative means of transportation. And they feel it would be prudent for most of those details to shake out before some type of transit-only facility were provided between, I'll say, Church Street and Fletcher. So I think there's an opportunity for that to come, but for now, the University of Michigan has asked that that not occur. Now, as far as the design speed and target speed, depends on which engineer you ask, but I try to treat the two of them the same. The current speed limit on this roadway is 25 miles an hour. There are not a lot of, being all that we're in the conceptual page right now, there's not a lot of things we can do. Well, let me step back for a minute. What is providing slower speeds right now? We have two always stop controlled intersections, one at Fletcher and one at Thayer. So although that is not a tool that engineers use to control speed, it is an output that happens when those types of traffic control devices are warranted and in place. The one part that we're think that we could use some type of vertical changes is that raised crosswalk at the Ingles Mall, which is heavily utilized. And then from a two-dimensional standpoint, as far as when you're looking down the roadway, when you have that vision closed, so it's when the lanes aren't so wide, but you can, lack of a better word, choke them down, and especially provide some type of delineation, whether it's for the bike lane or for the transit lane, that provides that visual element which helps slow traffic down to get it within that targets and design speed of 25 miles an hour.
Thanks. Before I forget,
Are we going to do anything to confirm that we've achieved that? Like, especially, and also on Packard, are we going to confirm that we achieved our target speed? Like, measure it after the fact?
Well, I know on a couple past presentations, we had circled back with engineering team and talked about coming back and doing some follow-up traffic count, speeds, data gathering. So we could do the same, and we'll confirm that.
And we are in the process as part of this conceptual giant to have a baseline and have what are the speeds currently of cars at that specific at the crosswalk, so that we could have that before and after data should the project goes to an award and is built. So we could have real data to be able to make that determination.
before I forget, will there be delineators between the transit lane and the travel lane?
Yes, sir. That is the plan for now. That's the goal.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Kate?
Thank you for both of these presentations. This is really great to see, as Peter said, the raised bike lanes and raised crosswalks. I think it's heartening to see that here. It's a little disappointing that we don't see more of those in the Packard design, at least at this point. I think the one concern I did have, and again, I don't know who gets to fully control where parking goes. But the understanding the ADA parking, that's the different story. But the ones that were close to State Street, to me, just encourage people, give them false hope of maybe I'll get that one spot there and drive more traffic to an area that I feel even more strongly struggles with having any car traffic, which is that, that State Street corridor there. And it would just be, I would prefer to, first look to the garages that we have downtown that very often have capacity before we kind of put on-street parking in heavily pedestrianized areas. So again, I don't really know whose decision that is to make, but my strong preference would be to not have parking in these areas.
I don't have a comment to make other than thank you, and definitely can be taken into consideration as we move forward to see how we can balance the forces and desires of all of our stakeholders. So that's the best answer I can provide you for now.
Dharma? Oh, you muted.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. Thank you. I wanted to echo that a lot of this looks really great with the raised crosswalks. It feels like there's a lot of treatments that are being applied here, thought given to what speed limit that we're designing towards. And I guess I'm still struck by what feels like a discrepancy between, and I know that the designs will be different, but between this design and the last one, given that the Packard is a tier 1 corridor and this is a tier 2. And so, it's just to reiterate that I would really appreciate having the connection drawn, whatever you do with staff going back and whatever staff is able to bring back or you're able to bring back in a future presentation, kind of specifically talking about how we're addressing the tier 1 corridor and the issues that we've seen there. What speed are we designing towards? How is it helping meet our goals for that corridor? Because it seems like this is the opportunity. Like, we're probably not going to be coming back here anytime soon to do anything major. And when I say here, sorry, I mean Packard. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Eric?
Yeah, I totally agree with Kate and Dharma that seeing this really brings home to me, like, this is the kind of transit and bike and pedestrian experience that we all experience when we visit great cities around the world. And this is the kind of thing that really feels like placemaking and a place where you can feel safe outside of your vehicle. And it makes me a little sad to see Packard treated as like what we would have done in 2005. I mean, I do think that Packard as a tier 1 corridor deserves this kind of treatment. I know that it doesn't have the length and the width for transit only lanes. Maybe it would be difficult to do raised crosswalks across it, but we could probably do the intersections. We could probably do a raised crosswalk across 5th or 4th. And real barriers, something that is not going to give away and is going to be a real deterrent and not a flex post. Because as Pete said earlier, like, these flex posts are getting destroyed because vehicles are hitting them, and that would not prevent a pedestrian or a bicyclist from getting injured. So I would love to see something better for Packard, especially since it's a tier 1 corridor. It's a major street. We've already committed that we're going to try to do separated bike facilities in places like Miller. And I don't think the excuses really hold up. I don't think Miller has any less curb cuts than Packard does along that stretch. And I saw the other day that the fire department was saying that we've got this really fancy tiller truck coming that can do super tight turns, and that they're trying to attract firefighters from around the state to ride on their cool new tiller truck. My brother is a firefighter, so he sent this link to me and he thought it was hilarious. And attractive. He wants to drive the tiller truck. But I think we can do it. I mean, I think we can chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. And I think Packard deserves it. We have a lot of pedestrians and a lot of bicyclists in that area. So I encourage you to do the best for our city like you've done here. This is fantastic.
I've got a, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we hear you, and we'll circle back with the city team and see what can be done.
Got a quick question about the westbound lane over by Fletcher. Yes. So is that a right turn lane on the westbound? Yeah.
Yes,
right.
sir. Yes, sir. That's an exclusive right turn lane, primarily used for the buses that head northbound to, I presume, both Washington and Huron Street.
My feeling is with a 4-way stop there, or all-way stop, I'm not sure how I feel about having a slip lane, not a slip lane necessarily strictly, but Okay. Oh.
So that's an existing feature. I understand where you're going with your statement. We can regroup, and because we're in a conceptual stage, see if that is something that makes sense to do we still need it? Once upon a time, someone thought it was beneficial to put it there, but now's the time to reassess and still decide if it's warranted. So we can definitely take a look at that.
And along with that, I do notice a lot of people, especially students, will cross even though there's a crosswalk at that location. And so having a right turn lane there. So number one, having a right turn lane just makes it much further and less safe for them to do so. And secondly, is there thought to adding a crosswalk at that part of the intersection?
That would not be the reason why you don't have it there today is because the crosswalk would go into a loading dock at the University of Michigan that's present on the south side of the roadway. So it would be a conflict point for, especially with people with disabilities and sighted, to have that crossing there. So that's why one doesn't exist today.
I think that the fact that a lot of students still use it to cross the street should play into the decision about whether or not we want to keep that right turn lane, because it just makes it even farther and more dangerous when they inevitably seem to do that. So, Pete?
I'm glad you brought that corner up, Brett. I mean, that's a very large radius there for one thing. And also the idea of how do we decide where we need crosswalks? Like we've made a decision here. We've made a value judgment that it's more important to have this configuration of loading dock here than it is for pedestrians to have a very short route to for their trip, right? I mean, if someone wants to cross safely, they need to detour around extra legs of this intersection. And this isn't the worst case that we have of it throughout the city, but it's an example. And I guess I would like to propose that as a future agenda item, that we talk about that trade-off and where and how many crosswalks we have in situations like this. So that we can have a community discussion about like how far we think it's okay for a pedestrian to detour when they are going around an intersection like this. I'll share my personal opinion that shorter is better. Like no detour would be the best one of all. The other thing I wanted to offer up is that if the university has a ambitious plan for transit, like a train or something to North Campus, that's great. But I would be shocked to find that even the university could execute a system like that before it's time to repaint this section of North University. And so if for some reason we make a big change here and have a train or some other transit system here, then it'll be time to repaint these lane markings anyways. So to me, I say go ahead and make this change by filtering out vehicle traffic. And then if it needs to change again later on, it can change. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Any other questions or comments from anyone? I want to thank the Wade Trim team again for coming out and giving us two fantastic presentations. I think this was some really good conversations that we had, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you. And I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Stay safe. Thank you.
All right, moving along in the agenda, communications, we have staff report and updates. Should we have received a staff report and pedestrian or crash report in your agenda materials. So Cynthia, if you would go through those items, please.
Yes, I'm happy to do that. I will, I'm having a lot of interference with my headphones, so could someone confirm that you can hear me clearly?
Sounds good.
I can hear you.
Great. I will start out with our staff project update. And you have the full document in your packet. So I will not be covering all of the updates this evening. There are a few things that I did want to touch base on and highlight. The first thing I wanted to highlight is that our multi-lane reconfiguration evaluation project has kicked off, and the consultant team is going to be starting, excuse me, with setting up their models and getting their schedule set up and ready to go, and making sure that we have provided them with as much data as that we can. They will be doing data collection this fall once public schools and university are back in session. I'd also like to point out that City Council did approve the new spin contract at the June 2nd meeting. And as part of that contract, I wanted to highlight that one of the changes is the inclusion of additional devices during events that are happening in town. And so we have received our list of events that they would like approval to have additional devices in town for, and we will be reviewing that and getting back to them. Another thing that I wanted to touch base on is Fifth Avenue. So Fifth Avenue is open to traffic. It's noted in the project update as being complete. However, I would like to point out that the final delineators are not all in place at this point in time. So all the underground work, all the pavement work is done, all the pavement markings have been installed, but we have not received the delineators from the manufacturer yet. And as soon as those are in, we will be installing those physical delineators. So it's open to traffic. We hope that you will have the opportunity to experience it, and we're looking forward to hearing how people feel about that, as it is our first contrafold bike lane. We are, I also wanted to give an update on the discussion that we had in the last meeting about flashing yellow arrows. So the two locations that staff have been working on for Brockman and Stadium and St. Francis and Stadium are, the implementation is still in process. At the time that the staff report came out, we had bench tested all of those and had them working in the shop, and they were going out for implementation. And so they should be fully implemented by the end of the month. I wanted to give an update that we do have our safety meeting with MDOT on Friday, and we will be bringing up the concerns about the flashing yellow arrows and how they're operating on MDOT's corridors, as well as the desire to have audible pedestrian signals at all of those locations on the MDOT corridors in that meeting. I also wanted to say staff is looking at the flashing yellow arrows and how they're operating. We have not completed that work, as it was a not previously scheduled work item, and we are short-staffed right now, so we are continuing to work on that. I'd like to remind the commission that the flashing yellow arrow is a safety improvement for vehicle crashes, and we are investigating what that the impacts of any changes to those signal timings would be. At the same time, we are also working on developing cost estimates for what it will take to bring our remaining intersections up to having full APS and being able to omit the flashing part of the protective permissive phase with the flashing yellow arrow. And we do not have that work completed yet, but we hope to have that cost estimating done in the next month and be able to determine if that's something that we need to add to the CIP or if we will be able to go ahead and do that with existing budgets. As I said, there are plenty of other updates in the staff report, but I'm not going to, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go ahead and touch base on all of those. Also want to point out that we do have the Ann Arbor Police Department's monthly report. Pardon me a moment. That is in the packet you received. That report includes a lot of data on their activities and also on some monthly crash data. I'm not going to go through all of the crashes that are reported in that report. I would, however, like to go ahead and talk through the crash that we reviewed at this month's Ann Arbor Crash Review Team meeting. And that meeting is a combination of city transportation staff and city police staff. This month, we had one crash that we were reviewing, and as a reminder to the Transportation Commission, the crashes that we do in-depth reviews on in these meetings are our crashes that have a call out for the Ann Arbor Police Department. So these are our most severe crashes. And it's been an ongoing request of the Transportation Commission to get some more details on these crashes. So we are working towards developing a formal report out that we will be providing the Transportation Commission for these. That is not available yet. However, I will talk through the crash that we did cover this month so that you can understand the information we will be providing in the future. Our one crash. So these are crashes that are either fatalities or the most severe A-level injuries. And just as a reminder, we've presented on this in the past. A-level injuries can cover a wide range of injury types. So if there is a broken bone involved in a crash, and that includes something like a broken wrist, that would be coded as an A-level crash, but that covers everything from that type of injury up through and including a traumatic brain injury or severe internal injuries. So the crash that we reviewed this month, it was a fatality. This crash occurred at the intersection of 4th Avenue and Huron Street, which Business Loop 94. So this is an MDOT jurisdiction intersection. We can report that this crash occurred on May 5th. Surface conditions were wet, dark, illuminated, and this crash occurred just prior to 12 a.m. The crash involved 2 units. The first unit is a driver that was eastbound. The driver entered the intersection on the green and struck the pedestrian. The driver was impaired. The second unit is the pedestrian who was southbound. The pedestrian entered the intersection in the crosswalk on the walk phase, did not complete their crossing, and was impaired. Dangerous behaviors as identified in the plan and on the UD10 are failure to yield and impaired driving. What we will be reporting in the future is what our enforcement response is, what our engineering planned response is, and what our education suggestions could be, although we do not have funding for education response at this time. Identified concerns by enforcement were continuing to have DUI enforcement. Engineering concerns that were identified for this crash are that the pavement markings had recently been removed as part of MDOT's pavement marking renewal program, and that those are the crosswalk markings. We noted that there is illumination in the area. It is well-designed and balanced illumination. The illumination was working. We noted that both the traffic signal vehicular indications and pedestrian indications were working. Near-term strategies for engineering. We are meeting with MDOT staff on Friday, as I mentioned earlier, and something that we do want to have a conversation with them about is discussing the clearance intervals and the walk time that is being used at this location, particularly given we have senior living in the area. There is LPI, a leading pedestrian interval at this intersection, and it was implemented and working at the time of the crash. So education responses that we have identified concerns are intoxicated walking, biking, or walking, rolling, and driving. And some of the near-term strategies that we would like to be able to work on are targeted education campaign against intoxication when driving, walking, and rolling, and targeted also implementing information that comes out of the Office of Highway Safety Planning to supplement anything that we might develop locally. So that's the type of information we will be bringing you in the future. And that's what I had for this evening.
Questions or comments on both the crash reports and the staff update? Kate?
Yeah, I just wanted to raise the question that was in the
I'm
email.
sorry, I can't hear anything.
Okay, maybe I can, well, I'll say it for the group and then maybe we could discuss it next meeting. I just wanted to raise the question that was in the email about the potential for I know you can't hear Cynthia, that's okay, or that's okay.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Llewellyn, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was just, so two things. One, I just wanted to raise the question that was in the email, so not my question, but that was about the capabilities of the smart crosswalk technology and whether that could in the future be utilized to prevent crashes of this nature. Also, I guess I don't know how much resource goes into education, but it feels like, I don't know if that feels to me like a topic anyone needs to be educated on. So maybe that's just a standard response and we have to use resources in that manner, but it doesn't feel like educating about a behavior change that if people could make, they would. I don't know. That to me doesn't feel like our greatest deployment of resources, but that's a minor point. I think the bigger point is what was raised in the email, if that's a possibility.
Yes, Pete?
Thanks for taking a close look at this crash, Cynthia and Lieutenant Sherba and everyone else who was involved. As far as engineering goes, I guess I'd like to promote the idea that we can design streets that make it difficult and uncomfortable to drive fast, even for people who are driving impaired. So I want streets that slow down everybody, including the impaired drivers. And to me, that's the change that we can make here to protect people in the future. I mean, that's one of the big ones. Another one is that we can make it so that there's less distance for a person in a wheelchair or a slow walking person to have to cross while they are exposed to vehicle traffic. So those are to me, those are the two changes that we should be looking for. I guess I'd also wonder, like, how fast was this driver going? And how fast generally does traffic on that street go? Because I think it goes pretty fast on Huron, and we have a real opportunity there to improve safety by lowering that speed. And I will come right out and say that I think the first step there is to get control of Huron from MDOT so that we can make that street reflect our values that we have here in the city of Ann Arbor. And one of the things that I value is that people in wheelchairs shouldn't be one mechanical failure away from a life-altering or life-ending crash. So let's please get this street back from MDOT.
One thing just to mention and to add to what Timothy has said about the crash, the gentleman in the wheelchair, he began crossing as the signal turned to a walk. So he was crossing when he should have. The issue came up was when it appeared that his wheelchair ran out of battery. So he was left in the lane of traffic without any means of propulsion. And it appeared from the video that we saw that he did see the car coming. To answer your question, Pete, I haven't seen the final results as far as the speed, but it didn't look to me like it was excessively, or I'm guessing maybe 35. And I know the speed limit's 30 there, but that's not a crazy fast speed relative to, what it could have been, I guess.
Okay, thanks for that. Can I also follow up on generally about the crash results? I had requested last week about getting the police reports attached to this agenda, to the agenda of our meeting. Is that a thing that we're going to be able to do, or is there something that's stopping us from attaching the UD10s from the serious and fatal crashes?
No, absolutely, we can do that. I did get your email on that, and I'm happy to be able to provide that. We're working on a re-accreditation this week. Actually, last couple of weeks I've been kind of backburnered that for a minute, but we'll definitely be able to get those to you so we can send them to the group.
Thank you very much. Thank you again
Absolutely.
for your effort on this. This is great.
I would like to add on that though. There will be times when we report out on our crash review team meeting and we are not able to provide those UD10s because they may not be finalized.
If I may, I traded a few emails with Lieutenant Sherba about that, and my suggestion was that the file that gets attached to the agenda should be January until now, everything that's been released. So January to June 1st, we would see on everything that's been released in our June agenda. And then in July, we would see everything that's been released from January to July 1st. And that way, if there's a crash that's investigated for a long time, even several weeks or months, that we would eventually see it. So maybe it would be attached to the August meeting, even though it happened in April, if it took several weeks to be investigated. So we would have a file that would keep growing and hopefully would not grow too much throughout the year. But as what I've seen in prior years is that it would probably be about 30 reports by the end of the year. So that's my recommendation on how to address the situation of timing and some reports that get released later than others. Cynthia.
I'd like to ask a question about the sidewalk gap planning in the staff update. There are 4 sidewalk gaps that are going through like a preliminary engineering public engagement effort. And I just wanted to bring attention to that because one in particular, in the Sunset Wilt Summit area, was the subject of a public comment tonight. And I believe I heard it talked about in city council and other meetings. There's a new condo development. And so now there's a study to look into adding a sidewalk around that corner, around that area. Not to, well, to put people on the spot, I guess, is there an answer for why the sidewalks weren't constructed when that new development has been going in over the last couple of years? If there's not an answer now, that's fine. I realize I'm putting people on the spot. But we did have there's been multiple public comments about it lately.
Yeah, I can address that real quick. Without going into too much gory detail, the site, the development that happened on that corner did not for reasons I can't remember exactly, did not trigger a site plan. And normally that is the step where the sidewalk, the need for a sidewalk is flagged. We in engineering actually didn't know that development was happening until it was already going on. So at that point, it was too late. So that's why that the sidewalk wasn't required to be put in along with the development. But we've taken steps to try to correct that loophole in the future. So
understood. Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions? And let's go into liaison reports. So any commissioners who serve as a liaison to another body or organization, if you'd like to provide a brief report or update at this time. Yes, Wanu.
Hey, just wanted to let everyone know we are still in our comprehensive planning efforts right now. The second draft has been released, so you can go to the website and see that. It will come to, I think, Planning Commission review either on June 24th. That's currently what's scheduled. Sorry, I was pulling up my calendar, or it might be July 1. We're in discussion about that right now to give staff enough time to do the review, but also pay close attention to the maps and the transition zones, because I think Packard, Miller, some of these roads that we are looking at has implications for what transportation planning needs to happen from the map and land use component. So aside from that, the overall general kind of timeline of things is that this is the second draft. There is one more revision that's going to occur after this. And then likely at that point, after the third revision draft, there's going to be a formal 63-day period where it goes to council and then remains there for public comment and feedback. And so during that 63-day period, that's likely going to happen, I think, September, October, and November-ish. And Dharma, I think you'll probably see it coming your way in November. So that's kind of the timeline. Just wanted to let everybody know. The second draft is out. So that's one of the things that I really wanted to kind of let other people know. And then yesterday, just as a heads up as well, Arbor South got site plan approval. That's a larger development by Oxford. I was part of the decision, given that it was my previous employer, but has a lot of implications with respect to the number of there's 3 parking decks. It's a lot of retail and housing on State and Eisenhower, just for everybody's just kind of general awareness. And that has site plan approval with conditions. It will advance the council for a development agreement. And so still some time for you to get, comments. But as far as the site plan goes, it has been approved. Aside from that, 2 new developments coming next week. Just want to let everybody know 1208 South University. That is kind of where the Pinball Pete's is. That is structured for a high rise. So that's going to be heard in the next full meeting. And then there is a revision proposed for the Briarwood Mall to make the 100,000 square foot Harvest Market a little smaller. And it sounds like the other retailer is going to be a smaller footprint. So just just from a general awareness standpoint. Other than that, the comprehensive plan is, I think, the biggest one. Land use and transportation planning should definitely be aligned. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other reports? All right, moving on. Oh,
Hold on, I think I got my hand up.
okay, go for it, Larry.
Well, our Commission on Disability Issues has asked me to check into the 3rd Street area with the stairs that is north of Liberty on the west side of 3rd Street, about half a block down. There is still, we want to know who we get in touch with or how we work that to get that, at least on the board for maybe taking out the stairs eventually because of the accessibility issues down there. And the second one was we had a request come in to put up a APS on Packard and Fernwood. And there was a third thing that I can't think of right offhand, but we had another issue. Oh yeah, the Plymouth Road. It was brought to my attention that apparently somebody had died recently up on Plymouth Road in an area where there was no crosswalks. I think it was between Barton and going west on there where that curve is. That there's not a crosswalk within about a mile of it. I know we drove by there and we didn't see a whole lot before I mentioned it, but they're concerned about putting in a crosswalk somewhere in between that area so it's not such a long distance to walk before they cross the street. And that's it.
If I can real quickly, Larry had mentioned, I think the steps there on 3rd and 3rd and Krause. We're working on that right now, and we're planning to implement that project later this year.
Oh, well, thank you. That's one good thing I can take to them.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And Larry, I've made a note of the APS request for Packard and Fernwood, and we will get that on our list.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there's the people that I know are going to like that, especially the ones in that neighborhood that like to walk over to school.
Great, thank you.
Larry, if you're asking about the death on Plymouth Road recently, that was close to 23, right across from Plum Market. So it was not near Barton.
Well, that might not have been the same one. Maybe it was a couple of years ago, but she said somebody had died out there. And as I recall, my friend and I've got a friend who used to work for A-Ride, and we just hang out together. And we rode out that way, and we didn't see anything out there, but she was concerned that there's not it's closer to U of M than some places, and she was just concerned that there's a crosswalk for about a mile down there on the curve. But thank you. I'll make notes of the other two things for sure, because I don't know about getting one on Plymouth since there wasn't anything, but I figured I was asked to bring it up.
Okay, Larry, we will add that crosswalk request in for an evaluation. I will say off the top of my head, I think sight distance is probably going to be a bit of a concern for that, but we will go ahead and look at that.
Yeah, I kind of figured that too, but
Great,
thanks again.
Mm-hmm.
Any other reports?
Well, before we wrap up, I just wanted to make a quick personal update. This will likely be this month or next month will likely be my last Transportation Commission meeting in my current role. I've recently accepted a new position with the Office of Public Service Area Administrator. So I'll still be working with engineering and other teams just in a different capacity. I just wanted to take a moment to say it's been a pleasure serving as a staff liaison for this commission. I've honestly learned a lot from these conversations, and I just appreciate the thoughtful dedication work you all bring to the table. Thank you all for your collaboration and for letting me be a part of it all.
Well, thank you, Christopher. It's big congratulations. You deserve it. You've been a huge part of what makes this commission go every month. People don't realize all the work you do behind the scenes, and it's a lot. So thank you so much. I'm excited for you. All right. Any commission member communications from anyone else? All right. Well, as always, I'll put out a call for agenda items. Always, oh, sorry, Pete.
I do have an agenda item. I'd like to, I wonder if we could bring someone in from our fleet department to talk about the size of vehicles that we buy for the city of Ann Arbor. It seems to be a recurring theme that we're having trouble fitting large vehicles onto our streets without making them very wide. If that is, we're figuring into our design considerations, I'd like to know what our plan is for finding vehicles that have better turning radiuses and fit better on narrower streets.
All right. I think that's a good idea for a topic.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other ideas that come to you over the next month? Just email them or contact us any way that's convenient. The next meeting will be held, let's see. So it'll be, I'm thinking it's July 16th, 2025. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
At 7:00 p.m. It will also be a virtual meeting. And if there are no objections, we'll adjourn the June 18th meeting. Seeing no objections, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.